might play a song from our favourite Ravencoin NFT artist. This one's a little bit different. This one's one of his new ones that some of us have heard at the Braveland. It's got a bit of a Aussie sort of backstory to it, but I'll play this song from SOS. It's called Double Shot. Then we'll just wait for people to join. Hope you get going in the if you're in America in the afternoon. We'll get you tapping. If you're in England like LSJ, it'll actually wake you up a bit. So here we go. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. So we just sort of wait a couple of minutes. Again, the backstory to that is, I think some of you might have actually heard my story on that one. Hey, Humble Miner, how are you? Hey, Indy, thank you for joining. We're just sort of a bit of a chit chat before we formally start. But just on that song there, Double Shot. There was actually a song that was done by an Aussie band called the Cockroaches, and when SOS first played that, he shared that on one of the tweets, and that's sort of just reminiscing back in the 80s when I heard that song was played at Expo 88 in Brisbane here when we held the Expo 88. That that was sort of their last concert live, the Cockroaches, and that was one of their songs, one of the more known songs. So. Now that and I love that song, and SOS, yeah, you've done a fantastic job of it. That's actually on iTunes as well, so under the Martin Scott Key label. But it's such a great song, and just to the funny thing to that backstory is that the Cockroaches, our Aussie band, most of those guys went on to become the Wiggles. So there's catchy tunes, and I love it. So people might be thinking, what that has got to do with property? Well, these guys know I like to have a bit of fun as well at the same time, and I always appreciate talented people like SOS when they put some great music, passion what they do. And but yeah, thanks for joining, Matt. How are you? Just sort of had a bit of a chit chat. You missed out on a great song, Matt. It was by SOS. You probably heard it anyway. He played that at Braveland, not the last one, the month before. So so a lot of things have been happening over the last week. We'll sort of go through the normal stuff, but probably just give it a couple more minutes to give people time to sort of get themselves sorted and join, and then we'll sort of start the formalities. Just talking about something, obviously a big event that was held last weekend with the Bitcoin conference. Again, that's growing. I've been going in there the last few years, logging in from on YouTube, and there's always some great content. And I know some people sometimes get a bit too Maximus in terms of Bitcoin, and some other chains. I just try to remind it that at the end of the day, it's the rising tides that raises all boats in terms of all chains in particular. So I think people just have to be a bit more conscious in terms of the blockchain as an industry. We all got to support that, the blockchain in general as an industry. So it was a great event. I really enjoyed it. It mucked around with my sleep. Obviously, the call sessions were right in the middle of the night here, and but I think I've caught up on that sleep. But it was a great event. I think they got 25,000 people there in Miami, and they released obviously the Miami Bull last year. I think it was half that. I think it was 10,000 people, and the year before it was 5. So they've sort of been doubling every year. And some great solutions. I'll go into a bit more detail later on, but there's some great things that obviously people are doing, great solutions in whether it's Bitcoin related or Bitcoin and other blockchains related. So I think it sort of gives you great insights in terms of how fast our industry is growing across different spaces. And again, it's I think people just have to be open-minded in terms of what's actually happening, not to be too narrow-minded in one particular chain, because at the end of the day, we know, as from a Ravencoin perspective, we are a little brother to Bitcoin. And I think if big people love Bitcoin, I think they'll love Ravencoin, because obviously we've got our own special strengths as a Ravencoin in terms of tokenizing assets. So I think people just have to respect in terms of what each chain does in their utility and their strengths as a utility. So so basically I'll go into a bit more details after, but that was just a general chat. Okay, Jeff, thanks for joining, Jeff. I hope you're well. Ravencoin News is in the house as well. Thank you for joining. Philly, thank you for joining, Philly. Just popped in, I just saw you then. What I might do, I might start the formalities without being too formal. So I'm Luis Miguel Alexo. I'm the Managing Director for BrickBC Projects. We tokenise Australian real estate property. In terms of our focus is providing the access to real estate property to everyone around the world, particularly the retail market that never had access to real estate. Now got the ability to, through our platform, to finally have access to real estate for as little as $80 per token. So again, that's really our focus to all corners of the earth, that we can again play our role in making a difference to people's lives and building their wealth and financial freedom as they go forward, given the new technology of blockchain and the decentralization that nobody can control anybody. And again, we're on that journey. We started the journey 2 years ago, and obviously we launched 2 months ago, whatever it was, the Brick token series. Some of you have heard the story, but again, I think this is probably more beneficial for the people who haven't heard the story in terms of our model, our simple model. Again, at the BrickBC Projects, I'm the founder, and my co-founder is Melinda Alexo, my life partner, my business partner, and so we've been involved in property for a long time, doing our own things in terms of new builds and renovations in residential real estate. I've got an accounting background, so I'm a CPA in Australia, and I've looked after for over almost 28 years, I think it's been, by last count, and looking after small to medium-sized family businesses, predominantly in the property space, whether they be builders, trades, property developers. That's always been the core. So I guess in terms of us, the problem we're trying to solve is provide access to, whether it's developing countries or developed countries, basically now take this to the world, because we want to have a significance in terms of what we actually are doing. We could be doing this same old in doing what we've done in terms of properties, doing our own thing in properties, but we felt there was a far greater meaning to take to the world and provide access to the world in terms of what we're doing, continue to do, the fundamentals, but now providing access to everybody to come on the journey with us. probably just to sort of explain what real estate tokenisation is. I'll keep it very simple. It's basically, think of it in terms of where you might have in the past thought of it, or you're probably doing it now, or you have done it. Think of it in terms of where you got together with 4 other people, and basically decide to buy a $500,000 property. You decide to kick $100,000 each. You don't want the banks involved. You just kick $100,000 each, and you go and buy that property. You settle on the property. You rent the property out. And you start that journey of owning that property, co-own that property. And then obviously you get your rent from it. You at some stage, you need to consider in terms of what the end result is, whether you at some point you sell out or whether you keep it long term. But again, you're on the journey together as far as that property. 5 owners owning that property, that you haven't got the banks involved. That's exactly what we're doing here in Brick BC Projects, in tokenising each property token series. I'll use the Brick Koala, our current token series. So basically, rather than being 5 people, we've got 40,000 people actually co-owning that property. So basically, everybody's got the ability to buy one Brick Koala token or many Brick Koala tokens. And basic for as little as $80 each. So again, it becomes, okay, well, do I buy some now? Do I buy some now and buy accumulate more as I go along the journey? So again, people got the freedom to do what they want to do in terms of owning access to property, and then be able to diversify in terms of our other property token series coming up. So we've got 10 more coming up after Brick Koala in the next 12 months. With the focus areas here, it's what we call Southeast Queensland. So it's our state of Queensland here in Australia, but particularly around the Southeast Queensland, which is a 200-kilometre radius. So we're right in the centre in terms of Brisbane. Then 100 kilometres south, we've got the Gold Coast. 100 kilometres north, we've got the Sunshine Coast. So that's predominantly where we're focusing on. This is where my networks have been for over 28 years, whether it be from your town planners, your architects and engineers, and obviously the builders and builder developers and so forth. So again, that's our massive point of difference to who we are, and access to unlimited property in ticking the boxes as far as being A-class real estate property. So basically, that's probably in a nutshell in terms of what our model is. What provides a bit of a point of difference? Well, it is a major point of difference compared to other models out there, because we're very early. There's probably 18 other models like ours around the world. We like to think we're pretty unique in terms of our model. Basically, our each property token series, like the Brick Koala token series, you'll also have a crypto portfolio as the rent is generated each month. That net rent is actually goes to acquiring crypto projects, cryptocurrency, from your Bitcoin to Ravencoin to Ethereum, and basically you've got an accumulating crypto portfolio in that token series. Third class of assets we've got in there. We've also got some NFTs, about a dozen NFTs. We need art for our properties, so what a good way to obtain NFT art for those properties. So we'll have around a dozen, as I said. But also it's an asset in its own right. So basically, the Brick Koala token series, an example, it'll have 3 assets within that token series. It'll have obviously the core asset being the real estate property. It'll have the cryptocurrency portfolio, as obviously once the rent starts being generated each month, that goes towards acquiring the crypto projects, and also the NFTs. So you've got those 3 classes of assets in there. With the NFTs, it's a dual benefit, because again, we need art for our properties, but at the same time we're supporting NFT artists on the Ravencoin chain. So we buy NFT art for both of the properties and also for our own Brick BC office. The Brick Koala token series is up to, I think, 8 pieces of art there already, which we do have one of Indy's. Indy's is in the house here, and the white swan that we bought from her beautiful art pieces that she has. So again, we do thank you, Indy, for that beautiful art she does. And again, our objective is to keep supporting NFT artists who are minting on the Ravencoin blockchain. So that's pretty much in a nutshell in terms of the model that we have, and if we sort of, if I give you sort of insights in terms of the current insights as to what's happening on the ground here. So I think we're just under 1,100 brick wallet tokens sold. We continue to obviously educate and provide awareness in terms of what people can do. So a lot of parties educating, and that also will rely on most of you who are listening here are brick wallet token holders. Again, rely on all of you to participate and help us get the word out there and educate and awareness, and so people can actually get on the journey, get on the bus with us. Because again, this is something that's obviously it is the future of real estate. It requires awareness because people still don't know what you can do. People don't even know what blockchain is, some of them. So again, we're all playing a big part in educating the general population in terms of what you can do on blockchain, what is Ravencoin, what is real estate tokenization, what is BTC project tokens. So again, we're spending a lot of time on education. Today, I'm calling the Brick Q&A marathon. Again, trying to cater obviously for different time zones. So we've got 4 more sessions between today. Well, in terms of here in Australia, it'll be a Wednesday marathon, but it'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, US time across. So we've got 4 more today. Pretty much covering the same content that I'm covering here today, but just trying to access and educate and awareness to other parts of the world in the more friendlier times. But yeah, so basically at the moment also we're negotiating with some families here in Australia, Florida, and New York. So we've got some family office type families that have heard of us or been put onto us, so that we are educating as to what is real estate tokenization. Most of the ones we talk to, they've never heard of blockchain before. So it's taking a bit longer to become educated in terms of what is and what our model is and so forth. So so making some great progress with those families, because I think it's one of those things. Once they see and experience, they'll come on the journey with all of us, and they'll probably be involved with every token series that we put up. But that's sort of a bit of a background in terms of what's happening on the ground here. I actually done a video yesterday, which I'll sort of put the links. I've done a longish video on my brick walk yesterday from the Howard Smith Wharfs, just sort of reflecting and sort of updating people what's going on, and a bit emotional, a couple of things, because again, in terms of what the blockchain is actually able to do in changing people's lives, and given some of the things that came out of the Bitcoin conference. But so really exciting things in terms of what's happening, and I think our industry keeps growing every week. When I do this, there's another level of activity that's happening. So really exciting times as a blockchain industry, as a Ravencoin blockchain, and also as a Brick BC model, Brick BC projects in terms of what we're doing in the real estate tokenization. But yeah, look, it's. I probably should just pause for a second here and just say that I did forget to mention there is 23 NFTs that I'm giving away that have been minted obviously on the Ravencoin chain. And these 23 it has significance to us that we minted these because it's significant and sharing with our family and friends and the Brick family, and sharing now here 23 of them. And the significance of the number 23 is we had Shane Warne, who's the king of spin, an Australian cricket player. For some of you who don't know of cricket, it is very much cricket as a game, as a sport. It is very much at the fabric of an Aussie, at the fabric of an Englishman, the fabric of an Indian person. It's obviously just mainly the Commonwealth countries that do play cricket. I think in Holland, where Morgan Crow's from, they also have actually dealt into cricket. They've actually got a team, and so I think it's spring. But yeah, look, just this was actually quite. He passed away at the age of 52. He had a massive heart attack, didn't survive, and it was quite a shock for us here because it's such an icon of our Australian culture. He signified the Aussie larricness in terms of what is being an Aussie, and so it was a bit of a shock. And so they don't have to be minted. It was actually based on I was watching the memorial and took some photos of the memorial here at the MCG, where they had 90,000 people attending his memorial at his home ground in Melbourne, where he was based. So it was quite emotional, and we sort of paying respect to Shane Warne, the King of Spin. We minted that and to share with our family and friends and the big family. So again, that's his number was number 23, and that's why we're giving 23 and his way. So just a bit of a reflection there on such an icon of Australian sport here. For some of you who don't know cricket, it's quite a unique game. It's the true traditional form of the game. It goes for 5 days, so which is great. It's always great here at Christmas time where we're relaxing. We've got the cricket in the background and enjoying, and you're basically going in and out of the barbecues and catching up with people, and you've always got the cricket in the background as a reference point. It is very much an Aussie tradition here, especially around Boxing Day, the Boxing Day Test, which is in Melbourne. So don't mean to bore you with the history of what cricket is, but it is very much part of our fabric here in Australia, the cricket. So it's a unique game. If you have to be very patient, it does go for 5 days. There is shorter forms to the game. 1 day goes for 1 day, and there's the 2020s, which go for probably around 4 hours, 3-4 hours. So there is the shorter games, but the tradition of the game is the 5 day, the test, the 5 day games. And I think Paul, LSJ, and Indy would actually know what I'm talking about here, given that they form the UK part of the world. But yeah, so that's not to sort of bore you with cricket, but just sort of paying that tribute to him. To Shane Warne. In terms of, I've just got a couple of notes here, making sure I don't go off track and digress. As I mentioned, that in terms of those brick walks that I do, that continue to provide those awareness and get a real feel in terms of where the properties are, and I hope you just continue to enjoy that. But I thought I've got some other content here to touch on later on, but I thought I'd do just open up the Q&A. For questions, because Q&As aren't as good as people's input in terms of asking questions and so forth. So please, if you'd like to ask questions, I'll open up the floor for you to be able to add you as a speaker. Actually, while we wait for that, also shout out to Crypto Lisa. She's having an operation. Hope everything's going well. Wishing her a speedy recovery. And take care of yourself. Also for Crypto Bremer, he also is called COVID, so I wish him a speedy recovery from COVID. Also special happy birthday to somebody who's going to be a special guest in our what is real estate tokenization tomorrow. We're our co-host with Jake. She turns 40 today. And I won't mention who it is because obviously give away the hints that I've been sort of feeding leading up to tomorrow. So a big happy 40th birthday to her. Hope you have a fantastic day and enjoy it. But yeah, so to get those things, those mentions while we wait. But yeah, if there's any questions there, please come up and I'll add you as a speaker. Also, just keep going with some of this other content that might be interesting, that's related in terms of what's happening around real estate. But yeah, look, I'll keep talking, and if you want to put up your hand to speak, please, I'll add you as a speaker. But yeah, look, in terms of sort of reflecting some of the things that have been happening, which obviously ties in with real estate tokenization. At the Bitcoin conference, we had the Minister for the Economy. That there was a fantastic segment there at the Bitcoin conference where the Minister for the Economy for El Salvador was sort of reflecting back on the last 12 months since El Salvador adopted Bitcoin and just what it's meant for the country. it was just like very, very inspiring to hear in terms of just in a short period of time what impact it's actually had on El Salvador from a tourism perspective. Regional areas in terms of retail shops, little corner shops using now Bitcoin, and people can actually now receive their money because a lot of their population, when the young people that actually go through El Salvador, they aspire to go and work in America because obviously knowing that that's where they're going to be able to provide a future for themselves. So a lot of the time they send money back to El Salvador to their families. Obviously the traditional way that's been going, when you send money, you lose a lot of money on transactional costs in terms of the fees that banks charge. So, and some of those fees can be as much as feeding a whole family for a week. So again, there's a massive problem there, and now they can just basically transfer their Bitcoin from where they're based. They might be in Florida, working, transferring their family El Salvador through their wallet, Bitcoin wallet, and they get obviously lose very little in terms of transaction costs. So again, that's really inspiring to see what it's meant for the country, and now they actually can go forward and they can actually achieve their dreams and goals and aspirations. And that's exactly what we want to provide, access to property to places like El Salvador, whose government's very, very proactive and getting people out of this rut they've been in, that have been able to break the cycle. And now they're actually breaking the cycle and actually achieve their dreams. It's inspiring, and again, just reminds us, these people now can actually buy our property tokens because now they're going to have access to property here in Australia for as little as $80. They can accumulate their wealth and be financially free in going forward. So it was just really inspiring to hear that story from the Minister for the Economy and just what it means and how we can help from various aspects. Hey, Matt. How are you, Matt? You well, Matt?
How are you doing? I'm doing well. Yes, doing well. I just wanted to ask one quick question, and I was right about number 23. You know that.
Yes, I'll give you cues on that. Actually, just on that, I did say to you. Sorry to interrupt you, but I did say to you there's a double story to that number 23.
Right.
So when Shane Warne, before cricketers actually had no numbers, right? So when they introduced one days and they introduced the 2020, which is goes for 4 hours, the two different forms of the game. When they started the one days, they had to have numbers because before there was a tradition not to have numbers as cricketers. So when they introduced the one day games, they had to actually pick a number. So Shane Warne picked number 23 for himself, and the reason he chose 23 was because of Michael Jordan. Because as we all know, Michael Jordan won 23. So because he was actually they were part of the Nike family, he was sponsored by Nike, and he obviously got to meet Michael Jordan. He chose 23 because of Michael Jordan. That's sort of the backstory to it.
I thought so.
Right.
I did want to ask. You did say in Australia, properties there are doubling every 10 years. I thought it was 7. Maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah, look, just a rule of thumb. Like if I have a look in terms of where the Brickwala is, in terms of, it's an exclusive estate in Hamilton, so 3 miles from the Brisbane CBD. As a rule of look, some places do more than double. They go 7 years, sometimes 6 years, but you got to have to look in terms of the quality of the properties too. Like you've got some of those might have been sort of more so low demographic areas. But again, it's probably just one side of. But I'm talking about sustainability. Sustainability in terms of that properties. Where are the locations? If I look back 50 years, so for the Brickwala in Hamilton, been an exclusive area. If I go back 50 years, which all the data is there on the website in terms of where I've gone back all those years, and time and again, it just sits right on cue. Every 10 years, it doubles up. The next 10 years is going to be different because we've got special circumstances here in Brisbane, and that obviously got the Olympics in 2032. That's a very special sort of circumstance with the Olympics. But my forecasting that I've done around it was actually, this is before we even actually had the Olympics announced last October 2021, when we got the Olympics. So all our forecasting was actually prior to that because I didn't think we'd get the Olympics, only because Brisbane, competing with some of the other countries, and I think in the end we got it by default. But basically this area here, I'm saying 3.5 times in 10 years' time. where the property values will be. So this one here, $3.6 million for the Brickwell property. I'm saying it's going to be around just over $9 million in property value in 10 years' time. But that's still saying conservatively, because that's not even factoring the Olympics. And if we go back to what the Olympics did to Sydney back in 2000, in the 3 years leading up to the Olympics, it went crazy. It's just like, I've got people who are actually there on the ground. I've got one of the property developers, build developers that we're going to be buying, because he ended up moving to the Gold Coast. So we actually negotiated with one of the properties there. But he was in the heart of it all in Sydney, and he was telling me he was living and breathing what was happening in the property market. So given what he said, my forecast is very conservative at 3.5. But you know, I'm given my accounting training, I always like to be very conservative when I put these things out there. So we're saying 3.5 times in 10 years' time. But who knows in terms of what that might actually be in terms of a high figure. But again, it gives us a good foundation, knowing that worst case scenario, it's going to be double, But that's not a bad return, and we stop talking about property. And given obviously our special model too, we've got the cryptocurrency portfolio there in the mix as another asset in the token series. But to answer your question, look, some places have probably done doubled in 7 years' time. But I'm talking about sustainable areas, because you can have some that do that, but is it sustainable? If you look at 50 years data, is that happen every time, every 10 years? And for me, I want things that are sustainable. History tells you a lot, but you've got to make sure it's sustainable in terms of what you're forecasting. Yeah. But it's good times ahead. Good times ahead. Yes. Hey, Sonny, how are you? Hey, Philly, put your hand up, Philly. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Rick, for having these consistent spaces at all hours of the day and night, and engaging people around the world. A couple of quick questions for you. One, I've been able to share these spaces and others of your material with people I know that are in real estate. They seem to start to understand what's coming, and I guess they're starting to see enough news related to tokenization of property, but there still seems to be some kind of disconnect. So question one is, what do you think the first message I should convey to somebody, other than just listen and learn, to kind of get them like ready to go with it, or putting the pieces together in their head? And then second question is, are you seeing a difference in different parts of the globe that you're communicating with people's acceptance for it?
Yeah, look, in terms of your first question, I think when you're talking to people, a lot of people understand property. Like if you ask any Tom, Dick and Harry, as I was saying, anybody, if you ask anybody, they understand property at different levels, but they know property. And the next question is that are you able to access property? You might love property, you might want to get into property, but can you access property in the traditional form, in terms of typically going borrowing money for it? And if the answer is no, we can never access property because we just haven't got the means, we can't borrow funds and so forth, I guess the next thing is the solution. So you've identified the problem, the next thing is the solution. Well, the solution is you can access property for as little as $80. Yeah, would that be something of interest to you? Because you can access property now for as little as $80, and then you consider, okay, well, it's happening right now. And again, obviously, then becomes in terms of coming to these sessions to be educated in terms of, because once you spark that interest, that they can actually access property for as little as $80, that sparks the interest straight away. If you love property, if you enjoy property, you know property, straight away that sparks the interest by saying, oh yeah, for as little as $80. I mean, you tell anybody in terms you can access for as little as $80, anybody's going to jump at that. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're in Africa, whether you're in South America, whether you're in America, in Australia, it's going to spark people. Because people, the experience we've had is that talking to different people is that, and just even on the ground here, even my family and friends, and it just blows them away to say that you can have a property ownership for as little as $80, regardless in terms of what the mechanics around it. Because obviously the mechanics is part of the education. Well, how can we help you? You know, but it's that initial thing. Owning real estate property for as little as $80. That's mind-boggling. Just that alone is mind-boggling for a lot of people. And again, it then becomes an education. Because I think some people sort of think, can be very skeptical about, okay, well, is that like a scheme? Is that like a pyramid shit? That all the things that people experience over the years? And again, you just got to bring them back in terms of, no, it's, you can be educated on it. And this is the spot too. And in terms of your second part of the question, Philly, as we've been taking obviously the Q&As and obviously today's a marathon Q&A, trying to sort of have access to different parts of the world, the education is critical. So we've been on spaces in Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana, and we've been obviously some in South America, and basically hey Matt, are you in the toilet, mate? Because we can hear you in the toilet.
Oh shit! No, I'm not in the toilet. I'm outside smoking a cigarette. Looking at the ocean. I thought it just says request here. I don't have my mic on, dude. Oh shit! I'm not taking a shit.
Good, man.
I said, oh shit.
Oh, good, my good.
Thank God we got a smaller community.
Yeah, stranger things have happened. Yeah, so you're good.
Sorry.
Thank God you went in the toilet, mate. But
right?
All good, buddy. All good. But just answering that second part of the question for Philly. So basically, we've been taking it around. So, and again, it's the realization that what you can do that, and again, it doesn't matter what part of the world. It's the same response. What you can do that, can you? And I said, yes, you can. So we've got some people already from Africa that have come on board, in Nigeria and Ghana as well. I mean, Ghana's going through severe problems with, I did mention the video yesterday that I did on my brick wall. They're imposing 1.7% e-tax, so anybody paying anything but through a mobile. Again, such a dumb decision. I don't want to get too political, but such a dumb decision that basically forces people to go back to the cash economy, which is such a short-minded approach. But yeah, so just taking it around and just educating, and again, it's people basically the realisation that they can actually access property for as little as $80 is something that just blows them away. So again, for us, we'll continue to educate.
And just to chime in along that line too is, unlike traditionally where you buy property where you're personally familiar with, the ins and outs of it, with this kind of a project, I can invest in, look, here we are investing in Australian property. But I had been to Park City, Utah, back in the early 2000s. That was the location for the Olympics. And you cannot almost even imagine the explosion in the values of real estate as a result of the Olympics there. And I just looked on, sort of a data trend thing, and, the $1.2 million home back then, which was one of these kind of bigger estates, they're now 12 million, 10 to 12 million. So that goes to show you what's happened with real estate around a community that was affiliated with the Olympics, because they built such a huge infrastructure. And so that's just basically primed for a real estate growth. I mean, it makes, like, in retrospect, like they say, the retrospectoscope is 20/20 vision. It's like, but yeah, that's what's so cool is that I'm not stuck buying real estate in my area, which is highly oversaturated, I believe. Now I can invest in real estate in an area that I believe has more upside potential. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents there and how to sell it. I agree, though, that we're facing another hurdle with the psychology of, people now have accepted buying art on the blockchain in the form of NFTs. But it's just, I spoke to my dad about it. Well, he doesn't even get Bitcoin, but even though he's very intelligent, he's like, Mr. Put the space shuttle in the sky, basically, and his eyes cross when I start talking about Bitcoin. But anyway, we definitely have a hurdle there for real estate still.
But what's interesting, Sonny, just picking up on that, is actually I was having a look at some data. Actually, I posted some of that stuff out of our newspaper, our business newspaper on the weekend, the Financial Review, and I actually put some articles on there. And then And do you know what's funny is that they had a look at that because we had a blockchain conference in Sydney on the weekend, which again it's obviously very early, but some of the data that came out of that was that the biggest holders, if they had a look in terms of different age groups, and they showed in terms of who's buying crypto across different age groups. Did you know that the most was 60 plus, people of 60 years, and whether that's because they've obviously got more wealth than, say, younger people, but the point is that people of 60 plus years were the most active in crypto, with larger portfolios of crypto, which I was amazed at that.
Yeah, because all the institutions are quietly piling on board.
It's quite an interesting fact.
They're all boomers.
And the thing is, like I think that we can never assume things, because I would have thought there would be nothing at that. From a 60, people of 60 age plus, I didn't think there'd be much there at all. So again, that sort of challenged my assumptions around that. But yeah, look, in terms of the real estate in the Olympics, we saw what happened in Sydney. Huge impact, and again, as I said, my forecasting hasn't even included that the big part of what's happening with the Olympics in 10 years' time. It was just basically looking at data in terms of doubling every year, and some of the special circumstances that we got here from interstate migration from down south, given our lifestyle here in Brisbane, Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast, and how we dealt with COVID, because people basically lost a lot of their businesses in Melbourne because they were at the extreme how they handled COVID. I know it's the same country, but there was different rules across different states how they handled the COVID and the lockdowns. Melbourne had the record lockdowns in the world at one stage. I think they got up to 280 days at one stage in lockdown, where we've had, I think it's been like 9 days in all, out of the whole period since COVID, we've had like 9 days of lockdown, which has a huge impact on businesses and people's jobs and so forth. So a lot of them basically escaping up to here. We've had a massive migration already, but our borders to the other states only opened up early this year in just sort of late December, early January, when our borders finally opened to other states. So then basically people who were planning to actually were getting their feet on the ground here. And then we've also had expats, Australians working in London, for example, working in Hong Kong, working over there, in America, we've been in New York and Florida. A lot of them basically the realisation that they want to be close back to their roots with their families, because with the impact COVID had on them and their families while they were working abroad. They're basically now returning back to Australia, and our international borders only opened up last month for people to actually be able to return home. So there were the sort of two major factors what I was actually predicting back then when I was doing my forecasting. I was talking to people in London, in terms of Aussies in London, they're working over there, and seeing what was actually happening and seeing some of the properties already being bought off the plan. So we had one property here up near the Brick Koala property that was bought by an Australian 12 months ago. He'd been working in London and he paid $10 million for that property. So converting back to US dollars, it's around $7 million US. Just not even seeing, just off the plan. While they've been planning things out over there in London, they basically bought that off the plan. Another one next door, also, there was also a similar price, $8 million. Again, another Australian working in London. So again, that was all, if you look at drivers, what's driving things, and for me, obviously, given my accounting background, is obviously always important to see what's driving particular areas. And again, they're the two areas that were driving the migration from down south and migration from expats working overseas. So that forecasting hasn't really factored in the Olympics. So you can imagine if you had that, what I call massive cherry on top, in terms of what that actually is going to be in 10 years' time. So I'm saying 3.5 times, which takes the Brick Koala property to just over $9 million. So you can imagine, what it can do. But again, I like to always stay conservative, because again, I'd rather be conservative and us overachieving than underachieving. So for me, I'd rather be conservative, because then it's actually, if it's more than 3.5, fantastic, happy days. But again, because these properties are held long term, it doesn't really matter anyway. Obviously have an impact on the token value, as the values go up based on the property and obviously the cryptocurrency portfolio in there. obviously naturally that the token value goes up. But again, these properties are held indefinitely, so it doesn't really matter from because they're not going to be sold. But people can actually obviously sell out at any time their tokens to cash any profit along the way as part of that journey. Let's probably take a pause there to say hello to some people that have sort of come in. JC, good to see you, JC. Been a while. Hope you're well. Quoting, hope you're doing fine, mate. Good to see you as well. Seeing Raven Skulls, hope you're well, Raven Skulls. Thank you for that fantastic NFT too. I showed to Mrs. Brick. She got a massive laugh when the token turned around and showed its ass. White Hash, good to see you. Victor, good to see you. Hope he's all well. Maggie P, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. So I hope he's all well. So again, look, this is a Q&A, so I continue to open up the floor if you want to come on and come up and ask questions. This is all about, because the Q&A is only as good as people's asking questions. So please, if you'd like to speak, ask questions, I'll allow you as a speaker. What we're sort of thinking is just sort of covering some things that I'd sort of, as I was talking about El Salvador before, in terms of how that's playing, such an emotional impact that's happening on the El Salvadorians, and again, it's emotional, because you've got people that never got ahead in life, but now they can actually finally get ahead in life in terms of what's happening in El Salvador. Hello, Jay. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. I've got to talk quietly because it's late here.
I hope double shot wake you up a bit in the evening from SMS.
Just a bit. Yeah, that was really good. Thanks. Yeah, awesome. No, I just wanted to ask a quick question, because I think you were targeting like a more retail kind of audience with the property tokens. So I just wanted to find out if there was any institutional kind of interest. How do they just go down the same kind of channels that are already in place, using obviously DigiShares and things, or is it like
same channels?
Same channels. Okay, cool.
Same chance, because again, this is as you said, we're very much targeting the retail market. But again, obviously, if an institution comes in, that's not our target market. But if they want to come in and buy, they can, because at the end of the day, it's because there's no voting rights. It doesn't matter in terms of how much tokens you hold. There's no special rights for anybody. We're all treated the same as token holders in the Brick Koala and the other future token series. So there's no one actually dictating anything. It's again comes back to the decentralization mentality. Doesn't matter if you own 90% of the Brick Koala tokens or not. You're treated the same as the other 10%. As far as in terms of what goes on. But yeah, look, if they want to come on board, they can. They can go through the same channels. With these families that we're speaking to, again, there's no special treatment. It's basically we're treated the same as everybody else, same price. So again, we see it as the opportunity itself is fantastic. So we don't have to actually discount anything to anybody in terms of people coming in. Obviously, we're about a discount as far as from the in terms of obviously from a marketing perspective from the Ravencoin community, given obviously our special bond with the Ravencoin community, and obviously very thankful for the support we get from the Ravencoin community. So that's why we put those tokens there, those NFTs on Ravenist, to provide that access at a discounted perspective. But that's more just saying thank you. But in terms of coming through our main channels of our Brick BC property token platform, it's they'll just go through the same process.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, no, I was just double checking because it was one of my cousins that I pretty much grew up with in South Africa. And I haven't really followed her since she massively kind of grew up and things, but obviously we used to play together as kids and stuff like that, and we were cousins. So I know that she moved to Australia, and she's married now with kids and stuff and that. And this whole story has a purpose, don't worry. But yeah, so what she actually became at the end of the day was she works for one of the investment funds in Australia. So I've just sent you details and stuff just to have a look and kind of see what she thinks. So I think it's Australian Super, one of the funds that she works for. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. As the thing with institutions, they sometimes they can be overcomplicate things. At the end of the day, we know the model, and I've dealt with institutions before. Obviously, given my accounting space in terms of dealing with obviously when it comes to clients' investments and in terms of when they look at stuff, in terms of what we even us in terms of when we look at stuff over the years, dealing with institutions and public companies and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes this can overcomplicate things, especially when something's so early, and trying to justify in terms of what blockchain is. That's always the first hurdle, And sometimes the problem with institutions, LSJ, is here in Australia, and probably the same thing with England as well, and US, is that so you've got the financial planning authorities that regulate financial planning in terms of what people can and can't invest. Which obviously in Australia comes under the ASIC regulatory body, which is the same thing as the SEC in America. I'm not too sure what it is in England, that regulatory body. But the problem is at the moment, the way things stand is that basically as a financial planning regulators, how they regulate financial planners in terms of advising people what they can invest and can't invest in, is that cryptocurrency is actually off the table at the moment. So, and the stupid thing is that you've got the majority. And I actually put a bit of tongue-in-cheek yesterday at post, is that the majority of financial planners themselves are investing in cryptocurrency, but they can't advise their clients about investing in cryptocurrency because it's off the table as far as regulation is concerned. So when you start talking about institutions, that's also, I think, that the problem they're still having, because obviously they're governed by the whole financial planning regulations in terms of what they can and can't invest in. Obviously, it's starting to change with the EFTs and so forth that come out in America, but in terms of Australia, there's actually nothing of that nature. But which it'll change. But I think that's the challenging situation for an institution. They're governed by the financial planning regulations, telling what they can and can't invest in, and cryptocurrency is considered high risk and considered still this narrative towards it that it's a fraud. And only drug dealers and are using those platforms to escape the traditional platforms. So that's sort of the things that are happening. I think it's right across the world, really. But I know for a fact,
I can definitely agree with that, especially when I go on Twitter and look across the spaces that have been held. Most of them are kind of like NFT artists that are using blockchain and are getting high when they're doing their spaces, and that's how they're like kind of selling their community and stuff. And you can see how people get that perception. Anyway.
Again, as we all know, I mean, governments use that narrative to obviously protect their position as to justify why they're taking that position. And again, without getting too political, time and time again, there's various things we come across in traditional media and so forth, and that's sort of the usual narrative, because they've got to protect their position somehow, and that's obviously a narrative they use to scare people and whatever. Again, without getting too political about things.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, thank you very much. That was my question, and I'll leave it there.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. JC, how are you? You're that as a speaker. You good?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey Brick, it's great to hear your voice. Sonny, LSJ, it's great to hear your voice too. And hello to everybody that I haven't talked to in a while. Quoting's good to see you.
Been too long, man. Been too long, JC.
I was just thinking that I really appreciate all of you guys and your consistency with obviously Ravencoin and everything you do for the community. But Brick, especially you, I see you continuing to hold these space meetings and continue to speak on this project, and that's really good. That is, a sign of a solid project, and a sign of that things are moving forward, right? You always wonder, some of these projects, whether there's NFTs or music projects or whatever, you always wonder if they're gonna last. Are they going to be hot today, and are they going to be gone tomorrow? So seeing you to continue to be here and having these meetings is great. I do have a couple of questions. I guess maybe I'll just throw both of them out right now. One of them is I noticed you had a space meeting with this the STO group, Security Token Group. And I was wondering if they're tracking your project or they're intending to track it when it's appropriate. And then the other question was, is there a way to know how far along you guys are going in terms of having capital for the first property? You know, in percentages, are we 5% there? Or are we 15% there? That kind of question.
We like to keep people updated. So if you go onto the website, on the home page, we've got the tracker there, the koala tracker. So obviously we'll do that with every token series that we put up. But as you know, we like to put up one at a time in terms of putting up one, solve that, move to the next one, property token series. So if you go onto the website, our website, which the links are on Twitter here, you'll see that on the homepage, if you sort of go sort of halfway down the homepage, you'll see the brick koala count, and that sort of tells you exactly, we update that daily, how many brick koalas have been sold out of the 33,000. So we're just under 1,100 at the moment. I think it's 1,087 to be exact. So we keep people updated there. So it adds a bit of fun as well in terms of obviously using the koalas, both in numeric and what a number of koalas that in terms of the image. So so it's on there, JC, if you want to check that out as to the progress from an everyday perspective as to where we're going. With the SDA guys, we actually had Kyle, not sure we had a chance. Actually, we all know that obviously Twitter Spaces, they expire, the recordings expire after 30 days. What we've actually been doing, we've actually been recording days, the audio recording days, and actually we'll be putting that on our website, putting those as links in our website and try to put across different platforms as well, so people got a reference points to the recordings. But yeah, with the SD, we had Kyle on 3 weeks ago, and it was fantastic, the engagement that we had with them. We continue to engage with them in terms of tracking. We'd like to think once DigiShares set up their secondary market, so they're setting up a secondary market for their clients. I think they're working on it at the moment. I'm not too sure exactly when the launch is, so we like to think that the guys at ST Markets will be able to track that secondary market in terms of obviously property token series on DigiShares secondary market. So we'll keep everybody updated in terms of once they launch, and obviously once we sell at Brick Wall and obviously be listed on that secondary market there to be able to track and obviously we're constantly in contact with the guys, Kyle and Herwig and the rest of the team there at STO Market. They do a fantastic job in terms of education, in terms of asset tokenization, particularly obviously in terms of real estate side of things. But yeah, no, we continue to engage with them, and so we'll have one in other sessions that we put on. That was just the first one we had 2 weeks ago, and I think we've got some great response in terms of people coming into the space. So again, it's so I like to think that I'll have to have a chat with Kyle and Herwig. And I know they've actually engaged with DigiShares quite. I know they're very active with DigiShares. I know they speak to Klaus quite often as well. So they are aware in terms of what the role DigiShares is playing across in terms of being a global service provider when it comes to real estate tokenization. So now the guys, we're very, very engaged with the guys. And we have a bit of fun with the guys. We have a bit of fun with Token Koala and Token Roo, as we gave them nicknames. Herwig's Token Roo, and Kyle is Token Kookaburra. So just a bit of fun with the boys. So I hope that answers your question, JC.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I just wanted to close with saying good job at staying consistent. I think that's what is needed, and and continuing to think of different ways to bring awareness and encourage people to learn, because it could be a fantastic opportunity that many miss because they just weren't really aware of it, right? So good job doing that, and just keep up the good work.
Thanks, JC. Appreciate those kind words, mate. Really appreciate it, again. It always gets I always get emotional when I hear those words, and in terms of you can do things and you hope you're on the right track, but then you hear feedback from you in terms of saying those nice words, just reaffirms in terms of what we actually are doing. For us, consistency is critical in terms of all the things I've done in my years as a business owner, and been involved in property and the accounting side of things. And hosting groups, breakfast groups that I do with different people. It's consistent is always critical. You need to be consistent. So same time, same place, people expect it, and that provides consistency and provides that learning. So I totally agree. Consistency is such a critical thing, and we're here for the long term. So we're not going anywhere. We realise obviously the first one is going to take a bit longer, and we like to be optimistic, and I'm still optimistic that we can actually sell the brick walls by the end of this month, the end of April, and I'm a very optimist person. I like to be positive, and again we can continue to focus that we can have the brick wall all sold out by the end of April, so and then roll out the next one. So again, we've got some other properties, fantastic properties of the same calibre coming up. We'll continue to focus here in Brisbane for the next 6, and then we're on to the Gold Coast for the 7th later on the year. So again, there's a roadmap on the website in terms of what each ones are coming up and where they're at. So it's a good reference point to know exactly what we've named them as well. Obviously with Australian names onto them, but consistency is critical, and hopefully, this type of space, we keep building the audience, and people keep learning in terms of what's happening with property and us in particular. But thank you for those kind words, JC. I do look at it's I'd like to sort of try to keep it to an hour. There's some other more things I could share, but again, just making sure people can get away and continue on their evening, get some sleep. If you're in England, like LSJ and Indy and Paul, and some of you in the US, continue to enjoy the afternoon. But again, look, it's just sort of wrapping up. As again today, we're doing the brick Q&A marathon. We've got some more, but please don't feel that you got to turn up. There's no expectations. It's just us providing more sessions to friendlier times around the world that people can sort of log in and find out what's actually happening. And we've put those times. I mean, maybe if you've got colleagues elsewhere in other parts of the world, if you maybe want to share in terms of those times, which I'll put it on here afterwards, share around in terms of making them aware of what's happening. And we've also got the What is Real Estate Tokenisation that I co-host every week with Jake. Again, that's purely just in general, real estate tokenisation, what's happening in the industry, and we always have a guest speaker. We've got a guest speaker coming in tomorrow. So that's the same time as this session here. So we're having a lady who's a serial real estate investor, and she's based on the East Coast of the US. Again, it's providing in terms of the fundamental of real estate is obviously the same, whether it's tokenized or non-tokenized. So sharing some of her experience, what she's been to, what she's up to. And me also, I've been challenged with this around adding real estate tokenization to a platform, to a traditional real estate platform. So again, it'll also provide a bit of insight from somebody who's in traditional, so been looked at real estate, traditional real estate, in terms of them making that step across to adding to tokenized property to their portfolio. So again, it'll be great to have her on to get those insights and to challenge her. She's I call her a serial real estate investor. So she's enjoying life, enjoying her journey and what she's doing, and we look forward to hearing. So I've been dropping the hints. Later on today, I'll actually announce who that person is. So thank you all for coming along. Really appreciate it, and hoping you all have a fantastic day, fantastic evening or morning, depending where you're at, and stay safe. Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye now.